Nice.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mary Anderson, and you are listening to Through the Lens with Dr. Mary. This show talks about how music, life, medical missions, and entertainment have influenced the world towards good. I am the host of Through the Lens. And we have a special guest today. His name is Jeremy Cosby. Jeremy, welcome to our show.
Hi guys. How are you guys doing? Thank you for the invite. It's been a pleasure meeting you on camera. We talked about 3 weeks, close to a month. I was on some travels, and I thought that when I got back, I just knew I had to set this interview up. It was something unique.
It
So
is such a pleasure. It is such a pleasure to have you on our show. Thank you so much for joining us. In today's episode, we are going to discuss some interesting topics with our guests. We will talk about suicide and prevention, and these are kind of sensitive topics, but we will talk about what happens in the brain and give a very professional and personal insight. And Jeremy, I would like our audience to know a little bit more about you. Jeremy is a broadcaster and VP of Music Distribution for Digital Alliance Platform and Artists United Network. So, welcome to our show. Jeremy, would you like to tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
yeah, thank you, Dr. Mary Anderson, with those healing vocals and healing thought. It's it just it's overjoying to hear such a positive plan and someone that works deeply with the community around her and everyone. So um, I'm in the music business, and I distribute music and videos to a platform, an invite platform called Digital Alliance Platform. Um, we're mainly a technology and software. We are That's where our developments come from. Um, we help artists by helping them reach their goals in their career. So, for instance, if you would be onboarding with us with Digital Alliance, we would help you get your metadata in line, making sure that you're signed up to the organizations that you need to receive royalties, performance royalties, streaming royalties,
Okay,
download royalties.
pretty cool. So, you're a very important guy there. You're VP. I heard you're VP
Y-
there.
Yeah, I was partnered in to Peach Street Music Group, and then Big and Mage Publishing. Then we ended up doing the publishing deal as well. So, which
Wow.
is exciting because we have our own distribution white label. So this will
Oh,
enable us to do
wow.
all the yeah. So it enables the team to monetize quicker than most platforms. And the technology that we have are with our PR company and the technology company with uh Antonio. He's the main publisher administrator for me. He's like my boss. He's like my boss. He tells me, okay, he
Big
trains
boss
me, he
man.
mentors me. Yeah, he bosses me around. You need to get this done. This is how you do it. Oh, we have a new feature on board. We just actually we just scored a partnership with CapCut, which is TikTok. So
Oh,
when
well.
you when you distribute your music through us, you end up becoming on the CapCut app too in TikTok. So
Very
with that
cool.
said, I can monetize anyone's like I can help them monetize their TikTok accounts to artist accounts, which will be able to
Wow.
enable usage. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Through the Lens is going to touch on a bunch of different subjects in the music and entertainment world. my medical missions. We're just going to touch on so many different things.
Oh
So I look
man.
forward to that. Absolutely. Um, Jeremy, I think it's really cool that you're a part of such a big network. Digital Alliance platform and even Artists United Network is
Yeah.
huge. And
We didn't
especially
touch on
for
that
the
though.
artists.
We didn't touch on Artists United. So, but we will. We will.
Oh yes, yes, yeah, we will definitely. Thank you for giving our audience a peek into your worlds.
Thank you.
Yes,
You're welcome. Thank
absolutely.
you too.
Um, what really inspires you, Jeremy, in your job and doing what you're doing in your current career? What inspires you?
Um, I like, I've always, the only way I learn is to fail. And the only way I learn to fix things is to fix those failed, situations. So my brain only thinks one way on this part, at least, helping. And I serve people, everyone, and I serve God.
Sure.
So I'm a very, yeah. So like I serve our Heavenly Father. So I do a lot of free stuff for people. I have a soft heart. And I think with that said, I mean, you could pretty much it's explanatory. You like I just like to serve people in general. And that's what makes me happy and it helps me through, my depression. I also have ADHD, adult ADHD, depression, anxieties. And today is just going to be a really good conversation about the suicide and how to prevent it.
Yeah.
So it
No.
goes hand in hand, like my music and my disability.
Yeah,
So
you'd be surprised. I'm also an artist manager. For those of you that don't know, I run Healing Vocals, Artist Management, and Podcast. So I have a lot of artists, and they all have some, I wouldn't say, they deal with real world problems. And I see that we do have some comments already.
yep,
Um,
we do. It's
John,
who is it?
hello.
Put me
And
on the
there's
side.
a
Put me on the
looks
yeah.
like
Put me
you
on the
were,
front screen here. Put me on the front screen.
yeah.
Put me on the front screen.
Who
John.
what?
John
John.
Harden. Yeah.
John Harden. Okay.
Put me on
How
the full
can
screen
we help?
here on the stream.
Oh,
On the
okay, okay.
stream, like
Sorry,
bring
sorry.
me forward. Yeah, all the
Yes.
way forward though. Let me check. John, yo, dude, share this lovely podcast we're doing. We're hitting this aspect, man. Suicide and prevention. Don't forget. Tell Dustin to share this too if you're still on this comment. Thank you.
Yeah, he actually had a good question.
Yep.
And that question was, how can we help stop suicide as regular people? And we're going to talk about that, John. So stay tuned. We're going to talk about what we can do, how you can help somebody, what happens in the brain. Um, so definitely stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And can you click on that comment and will it pop up on the screen real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. I like that. That's a good feature too. Yeah.
So stay
So
tuned. Go ahead.
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about what happens in the brain. And I think it's really important um, to talk about that. But before we do,
You can
I
always
just,
click off on that too.
oh, can we? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. This is live. This is real
Wow.
world stuff here. This is live. I wanted to talk to JC, Jeremy, about the networks that you work with. And I do see on your pages, your social platforms, that you mention a lot about veterans. Can you tell me a little bit more about you mentioning veterans and programs and definitely what that means?
Yeah, so it means actually a lot to me. My father was in the military. I had a lot of family that was in the military. I have a lot of veterans in the military, and a lot of my friends are veterans. Shout outs to J Ed. Shout outs to the network, Noel, and shout outs to Brian. They're all veterans and they're all creatives too as well. So we're really
Mhm.
bringing spotlights to the people, and we're, I guess, showing the resources that they may have missed being a veteran, because it's hard. What's going on in the world today with the veterans and the Veterans Affairs and the Border Patrol, and that the Veteran Affairs is not really, they're not really paying attention to the American veterans, and that's what's going on right now. So it's a big subject, big topic. I just want to go ahead and shout outs to everybody on the comments here sections. And we
Yeah,
have yeah, let's get in there. So healing vocals, Mary med assistant, John, Gabrielle. Wow. So go ahead.
yeah, shout out definitely. Um, I think it's so important for us to talk about the vulnerable populations um, that are affected by suicide. And that includes teenagers, even young kids, um, women in their mid 20s and 30s, and even 40s, especially if they get divorced or they have kids and they have postpartum depression. That is actually part of it. Veterans, um, people in poor economic situations who don't feel that they have hope. There's so many programs out there, and for us to support these programs and really understand um, how beneficial they can be.
Right, right.
So, speaking of that, let's talk more about suicide prevention and music and entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, like you were saying, the pinpoint on that is, there are organizations like the Millions Like Us, Women Veterans Association, which, some women don't ever see, the other side of the war. Some of them don't go, but some of them do. But some of them still struggle with, those different illnesses. Um, and then they got that association, and then they have the Creative Takes Courage, um,
Mhm.
Veterans Creative Arts Festival that veterans can apply, and they can apply to get their own podcast and everything, and they'll help them get it on the VA
Wow.
website and the portal and everything. So there's that, and then you know, just there's just organizations that help, you know, with veterans and what they go through. So I mean, it's all about resources, I think, and like when it's a time of crisis now, they need these resources now because
Yeah,
of what's going on. Yeah, what's going on.
absolutely. If you know that somebody is struggling with mental health, there are so many resources that you can reach out to them or to get them help. Healthcare providers like myself, I'm also a family nurse practitioner and a professor. I have a PhD, 10 degrees. I've been, before this, I was a nurse for 22 years, so I have a lot of training in this. I have 3 masters, 2 doctorates, PhD, um, and I'm a family nurse practitioner, which is why I'm Dr.
Wow,
Mary Anderson.
that's
Yeah, and
17 years. It's gonna be like 17 years.
yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, really long time that I've actually went to school for this, and they teach us that. And again, I'm going to go back into the 80s and the 90s, y'all, and we're going to. John, I see your comment, and there's a reason I'm going back into the 80s and the 90s to explain this, and then we're going to talk about how music helps the brain. What happens in the brain when you think suicidal thoughts, y'all? There's actually a process. So I'm going to go into detail about that. I'm going to switch myself over here, Jeremy, and we'll
Good.
talk about how music affects the brain and the inner ear. And a study I did, we will talk about that and we will expand on that, John. So thank you for that comment. And here's John's comment. He says, vibrations in the voice help our mind. Music is processed in the brain a certain way, and we're going to talk about that. So thank you for that comment, John. I'll leave that up when we get to that topic. Let's go ahead and we're going to dive into some statistics. I think it's very important for us to see that, and we're going to go way back into the 80s and the 90s, JC. So in the 80s and the 90s, and even before that, in the 50s and 60s, how they really saw depression. It was considered that men weren't depressed, y'all. It wasn't even in our vocabulary. It's like I can literally look up in the medical books from the 50s and 60s that say depression is a female issue. It's hormonal, because that's what we were taught in the medical world.
Right.
In the 80s, let's see, let me go back a little further. 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they still did electric shock therapy on women. And of course, men, if you were mentally unstable. But what they thought about depression back then is it's a chemical imbalance, and you can control it with this electrotherapy, where they actually like shocked you and doped you up and said it was a female issue only. And now we know different. Back in the 70s and 80s, we started seeing a transition in medicine. We started seeing a transition in medicine where we started seeing depression being treated, but still we didn't understand what actually happened in the brain till we started getting these 3D scans, 4D scans, CAT scans and stuff were updated in the 90s and 2000s. So we're just beginning to touch what really happens in the brain in depression. There's a really good doctor out there. I've went to his clinic. I have actually looked at his studies. I've been able to have a consultation with him as a medical professional. His name is Dr. Amen. And he's been doing these scans of the brain for about 30 years. And what he's discovered about depression is your brain changes literally in the frontal lobe and the middle lobe. And we're going to talk about that when you're depressed, when you have suicidal thoughts, even when you're ADHD. Sometimes that happens because you have a head injury, y'all, which is fascinating. So if you've had a head injury when you were younger, you're more likely to experience hyperactive disorder. You're more likely to experience depression. We didn't know that back then. Now we know this because Dr. Amen's done a ton of research. So I can show you a brain that has had brain damage, or that has had an accident or some kind of trauma, or they've hit their head over and over, which is why we talk a lot about sports and how we need to protect the brain in sports, because we know what happens now. And I can show you that same brain that is depressed, and it looks almost the same as the injury. Then I can show you what happens in the brain when it's treated properly. What happens, we're going to discuss that right now. What happens to the brain when you have those suicidal thoughts? Now, in 2021, there's some statistics done, and I would like to see the statistics from the pandemic. And those are actually coming out the end of this year, and we can do another episode on that. But 48,000 people died in the United States from suicide. That is 12.3 million adults have thought about suicide. 3.5 million adults have made a plan. And we're going to talk about why a plan is important and when you can help that person. If they are talking to you about a plan, it is time for you to get them help. Because they're reaching out saying, hey, I made a plan. They haven't lost all hope at that point. It's when they put that plan into action that we get there a little too late. So one death every 11 minutes is from suicide. It's crazy. And males,
crazy.
the rate among males, is higher. It's 50% higher suicides. Crazy.
Yeah, it's like not it's not like someone's going to come around and say, you know, hey, let's take a trip to a hospital real quick for a week. You know, like
Yeah.
because like I've been through the situation. So I'll just tell you my experiences. Uh, I've been to a hospital before. I've been admitted to for them to watch me. Not necessarily on suicidal, but I may have just, you know, because they'll put you on suicidal you first anyways, just because. That's the first
Yeah.
step. Like, okay, he came in, he has mental conditions, he's on medicine, and the cops brought him in the back of a cop car, or sometimes, you know, the police will call like an ambulance just to get you in the ambulance and take you to the hospital, check you in around 11:30, whatever, and then they'll give you some meds, and they'll give you your meds, put you to sleep, and then the next morning you start to schedule. Hey, you
Hmm.
know, are you feeling? They'll come in. Are you feeling 1 to 10? How you know how are you
Hmm.
feeling? You know, are you suicidal? You mad? You depressed? And they'll chart you on that, and they'll go on business, and then you'll have a a doctor's meeting with the main doctor, and he'll talk about why you're in. So, like, if you're feeling suicidal, just like the one of my favorite movies is this Bill Murray movie, um, and I can't remember what it's called on the top of my head, but his psychiatrist told him to take a vacation from his problems. And I thought that was kind of interesting because, like, I love Bill Murray and I love his movies, and I like doctors, and I've seen One That Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and you begin to think like this is real. Like, this is not a joke. They do these things in these hospitals, and there's a certain uh s- sequence to the steps. What's up, guys? What's up, Wayne? Wayne, he's from the UK. He does music. he he understands the mental illness too aspect of it. He's a really good friend of mine, actually.
Hi, Wayne. How you
Yeah,
doing?
so shout outs to Wayne and welcome to the stream. So, like, with my experience with it and being on suicidal watch on the hospitals, they're safe. Like, if you want to take a vacation, take a take a vacation.
Mental
Like, they're
vacation.
not gonna stop you. Like, they're not if you're feeling, like you were suicidal and you need more meds or something, take a break from your
Yeah.
daily life and go to the hospital, check yourself in for a week. Yeah, if you got insurance, that's even better. So just soap it up and get better. Like, the
Yes.
only thing you can do is just pray too as well. And if you don't have anybody supporting you on the outside, it's okay. We support you. Come on the podcast. We're open arms here, me and
Yeah.
Mary. So Mary,
Definitely.
you're excellent.
Thank you. I always tell my patients or anybody, even my artists, a lot of them deal with real life problems. Um, yeah,
She
it's
said
okay to
one.
speak up. It's okay to get help. It's okay to say, I'm not feeling good today. It is okay, y'all. And I think in our society, especially how I explained what happened in the 30s, 40s, 50s, on up into the 80s, and how we discovered depression, what really happens in the brain, which I'm fixing to explain. We just recently discovered that. And mental health has been in the forefront. And I think it should be normalized because there's no person on this earth that has not had a mental health issue at one time or another in their life. We've all felt sad. We've all dealt with grief. We've all had bad days. And, you know, some more than others. And that is okay. It's being able to talk about it and normalize it and get help and say, hey, it's okay if you have a bad day. There's many diseases out there that we can talk about with mental health. We just happen to be talking about suicide prevention, some about depression. So, Jeremy, and to everybody out there, I'm going to kind of go into what happens to the brain when suicide is attempted. Thoughts persist. You have your first depression. Anxiety is very common along with this. So the brain has different areas, y'all, that are primarily involved in suicidal thoughts and behaviors. They are part of a system related to emotions and impulse regulation. Remember how I said that some people that hit their heads early on in life may have trouble with emotion or impulse regulation? The same happens when you're chronically depressed or you have suicidal thoughts. So there's something called the VPFC. It's the ventral prefrontal cortex, which is right in here. It's exclusively involved in suicidal ideations. While the dorsal, that's the back part, guys, right around here, if you touch the top of your head, it's the prefrontal cortex. It's called the DPFC. It is also involved in suicidal actions. And what we've seen when we scan the brain is these areas light up when you have suicidal ideations or thoughts. It gets worse when you make a plan. Okay, so we've seen that through research. When you're the moment that you're actually, and they've used virtual, how do I say this? If somebody makes a plan to jump off of a building, in research to keep those people safe, they have used, to do the research to understand the brain, and this is true, y'all can look it up, they've used these virtual programs where the person can walk around in the virtual world, they can talk to therapists that are on board, they can do all this stuff. And if they make a plan, if they're having suicidal thoughts and they make a plan, what they do in this program is they see, like they scan them in the real world, and then they link it to this program. This is actually how they did the research on this, because think about this, y'all. You can't really do research on somebody who's about to jump off the building, right? Mm-mm. You can't. There's no way you can do that. So what they did is they built this virtual platform and they did this. And if a person made a plan and we didn't intercede or we didn't succeed in that plan to not let them jump off the virtual building or do whatever they're going to do, we needed to know in the brain what happens. If we didn't succeed in drawing that person back in the virtual program, and again, you guys are thinking, this is some Matrix stuff.
This sounds like some Matrix to me.
This is how they did their research, because it's the only way they could find to keep the person safe and scan their brain. Right, it's a simulator, and scan their brain while they were putting that plan into action. Like what really happens, because nobody knew up until this point. The whole front and the dorsal lit up. Okay. And the dorsal anterior also lit up. So that's the middle part of your brain here. And it mediated, it lit up, lit up, lit up. And they'd never, ever seen that before when a person put their plan into action. So that's actually like what actually happens in the brain. And somebody had a good question. And again, what happens to the chemicals in your brain? You've got your dopamine, which is the good feeling chemical, that actually went down to 0. And the depression chemical, the neurons there actually lit up so much that they didn't know how to measure it. They were trying to measure it through blood and saliva and tissues, and they just saw huge amounts of this neuron going on. It is crazy. And there was no dopamine whatsoever. And again, dopamine is a natural, it's like a painkiller. It's the good feeling chemical. And they didn't find that at all when they drew blood levels and saliva and took body tissues when somebody was having these thoughts. So that's what happens in the brain. Now, when you don't have those thoughts and you're all happy, dopamine is released naturally. And it's the happy chemical. So is oxytocin a little bit. It's the happy chemical. Oxytocin also happens to be the chemical that's released when you're pregnant and you're having that baby. Okay? So, yes. And it's the feel-good chemical. It's what makes you forget about the pain when you have childbirth or a traumatic experience and you're going through therapy and you have happy experiences too. So if you guys have ever wondered, ever in your life, why is my therapist, and again, some of you might go to therapy, why are they asking me to talk about my trauma and then talk about a happy moment in my life? That is why. So when you get treatment, when you get therapy, when you're happy in life and well adjusted, the good dopamine and oxytocin chemicals in your brain will help you be less depressed. Now, some of the medication that's out there, whether it's natural from Dr. Amen, you guys, he has natural medicine, and he also prescribes prescription medicine if you need it. It helps those chemicals and gives those good chemicals a boost, okay, so that you feel good, so that you're not depressed. And that's how that medication, that's how that therapy works in the brain. And that is fascinating to me. But somebody did have a question. I'm going to put his question up right now.
Okay.
And
Let's check it out. Let's go.
Yes. About music. And he says, vibrations in the voice help our minds, hence music. Can you please expand on that? And that's such a good question.
It is. It's a super good question.
So music is actually shown to activate some of the broadest and most diverse networks in the brain, the ones we talked about here, y'all, your cortexes. Music activates the auditory cortex in the temporal lobes right here. Okay, so if you take your thumbs and you put them on the top of your ears and you connect them to the top of your head, that's your temporal lobes. Close to your ears are your temporal lobes. Okay, but that's just the beginning for music. Music produces vibrations. Now, the part of your brain involved in emotions are not only activated during emotional music, they are synchronized. Music activates a variety of memory regions. It is
Let's activate them. Let's activate them right now. Let's turn on some. You have some interesting music? Yeah, let's listen to it and turn it down. You got to turn it down, though. We're going to listen to some.
Let me find it. Let me find our music.
Let's activate our temporal lobe.
Yes, right now, y'all, live. We're activating everybody's temporal lobe. So
stay on the screen.
It's gonna
a little bit lower, though.
Okay.
A little bit lower. Right there. All right, I can hear you now. Let's go. Tell us more about activating the temporal lobe.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
Music does activate memory regions. So right now we're building a memory. We're activating our emotional part of our brain. And it also activates the motor system. So when you hear certain beats and you want to get up and dance, guess what's happening in the brain? In fact, it has been theorized that this activation of the brain's motor system, along with the temporal lobe, allows us to pick out the beat of the music even before we start tapping our foot. The moment, the second you heard that, your brain, your body is already in motion to music.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that Metrodome. Like when you click on the Metro, click, click.
Absolutely. And
feel that motion.
Yeah. Now, what does that do to depression and to suicidal thoughts?
I like it. It helps my depression a lot, honestly.
It does. It does. So now you know that it activates what part of your lobes, the temporal lobes, which are affected by depression, by suicidal thoughts. It activates positive responses in the emotional part of your brain. It releases those good feeling chemicals. When you listen to music, are you guys more relaxed? You're like,
right. And I got a question. I got a question here.
Go for it.
Push me forward.
I'm stopping the music. Hold on 1 second.
That's good. Yeah.
Go for it.
Mike. Okay. So like you have to listen to good music. Like, I'm going to tell you that right now off the bat. So the viewers, I got to interact with the viewers because Wayne is here. And and John from Artists United Network. He's one of the main core members there. They're one of the main cores. I'm a remote core, so like, but anyways, this is crazy. I'm just so excited to be on the show, and I just want to thank everybody out there for just joining the show. And Mary wants to appreciate that too as well. And like music, I think changes people's perspective when they're in their lows, like she said, and but music can also alter you in a
Mhm.
negative way. So, like you heard people say, "Well, birds of a feather flock together," or you keep on hearing things in the network and the marketing or the music culture, like it can literally halt and stop somebody if it's the wrong type of music. Like there's good rap music and there's bad rap music and there's
Mm.
good marketing and there's bad marketing. So I mean, if you contest the market with music that is not for the people's proposition but for your own good, your own self, it lowers that whole. I think it lowers the whole, like you're saying, those temporal lobes, right? It will
Mhm.
affect that. Instead of making it good, it makes it bad. And once you and I could see it cycling. Like I could see this your whole like manifesting the wellness and health well-being of music into the mental side, and it leads to a path that you don't want to be on. you know Suicide is a main is something that is serious, that could affect everyone around you as well.
Mhm.
So, like with the music, and oh yeah, we can get online and we can whine about the issues and the risks. We can assess the risks. I would rather do that. I think I'd rather assess the risks in the music, so our temporal will be much more positive. And I get it. I get it now. Like with meeting you and all the information that you've given me tonight, it's just been a blessing. It's actually helped me see something in music that I haven't been able to see. And with knowing like the my friends and stuff that are on here, and we have these fans and these viewers, we want to appreciate and we want to bring that to the table. So what you have with the Mary, tell us more about um tell us more about what you have uh, for your for your viewers, and what other discussions? Because I know you were talking about more health, wellness,
Mhm.
and things. Can we lead that whole? Can we lead it into that for them
Yeah, yeah,
or
we
some?
sure
And
can.
then yeah, so I don't know. We are at 40, almost 40 minutes. So what's the next one?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to everybody, with me being a family nurse practitioner, artist manager, podcaster, um, I've seen a lot of patients come in, and I've seen a lot of artists who deal with depression and one time or another, or addiction, or whatever that is they're dealing with, suicidal thoughts. And I've been able to come in and help them. And one of the things I always tell them is, especially artists, when you're feeling a certain way, put it into your music.
Right.
Tell that story through your music. It makes it personal and relatable to the world around you. And I think some of the best songs out there are real life experiences that we all experience. Heartache,
Right.
um, maybe that new baby that's coming, maybe getting married, maybe it's getting your first truck, whatever that is, put that life experience in there.
You
If you're
write
feeling
music.
depressed,
You write music too,
yes,
don't you?
yeah, yeah, I
What
do
do you
write
write
music.
about? I wanna. What do you write about?
Well, you know,
You can
not
push
a lot of
yourself
people
forward.
know my story, and I know we're getting kind of close to time, but I stopped playing music and singing music when I was 11 when my dad died, and I went into healthcare from there. And I spent 22 years in healthcare until I did my podcast, and I got thrown back into the music world. And some artists came to me and they said, Mary, you're so good with artists. Let me, um, will you manage us? And I said, sure. And then those artists have literally encouraged me like I encourage them, because I'm so positive of my artists. You can ask any of them. They're like, Mary is the bomb. Like, she will go to our shows. She will encourage us. Yes, I still write music today. And do I journal my thoughts? I don't anymore. I put it into my music. But I do encourage my patients to journal. That is a good question, Wayne. I started writing music, and I wrote 2 songs, and they have been picked up immediately by other artists. So I go to record them and drop them this year. I didn't expect that. And that is thanks to Nuke Bushner and Caden Collins and Maxwell Tyler and BKB. I know all of them. Some of them are my artists, some of them are not, but they have encouraged me so much. So that's the reason I got back into songwriting and singing, and I'm also continue to be an artist manager. One of the things we do on this show, Jeremy, is we flip the script. And I think that's what you just did. You beat me to the punch. You flipped the
Well,
script.
we were ending. I was trying to remember what you were saying. Okay, when we flipping the script, and it was almost time. So,
Jeremy, is there anything you would like to say to our audience before we sign off?
You know what? Just be patient. I think patience and time is something that we all should work towards against. You know, through our communications and through the channels and the networks that we know. And also to pay homage and to pay blessings by serving your community and the people around you. No matter if you're, no matter what type of job title you are, there is no titles when we're talking about um when we're talking about persistent consistency and just meeting people. There is no job title. I think marketing too. I think marketing goes a long way with the prevention and what we can do with that preventable style of marketing. The colors and the tones and the advertisement that you make and the voice that you have and the message. So I think when we look at it as a whole, if you want to lift off your voice, to study these risk assessments and your topics, like making sure that when you grow and you achieve, and I'm just saying these things, off the top of my head, is what I believe. My beliefs is, you don't always have to believe in somebody's idea or somebody else, but at least, acknowledge that it's there, because I think time will tell. And I think we're on a rush anyways. Like, life is always building, life is always crawling, life is always moving, and your business is supposed to do the same. So if
Yeah.
you're a content creator, if you're a veteran, if you're somebody that has a chronic illness or a mental illness or whatever they're really calling it these days, because social media, they get a little iffy on your content, like when you start uh with the ecosystem, the different, what do you call them? I don't even know what they're called no more. Like new
We say mental health.
that like mental health. Okay. So when you're dealing with the mental health, I'm a millennial, so you might hear a lot of different millennials stuff. Um when you're dealing with the mental stuff, the only person that can make that change is you and that perspective on how you see it. So like even if like you have something terrible in your life that has gone wrong, I think that if you stop and listen to yourself and your heart and the faith that you have in your well-being, you were able to um, help yourself. Because a lot, like, if you get to this point where you are suicidal and you're thinking about it, you do need to contact someone. And Mary Anderson will tell you that phone number right now. What's that
Yeah,
phone number?
absolutely. And I think you brought up an important point
Yep.
about wherever we're at, whether you're an artist manager, whether you're a distributor, whatever job you have, You can be a voice. You can be
It's
a
not,
power.
yeah, it's a voice. It's not a title, it's a
Yeah.
voice.
Absolutely. We just wanted to say blessings and a huge thank you sent out to everybody involved, everybody who's joined our podcast, everybody who will listen. Remember, if you or somebody you know needs help with suicide prevention, or they're thinking overwhelming thoughts or suicidal thoughts, please reach out to a friend, a family member, a healthcare provider, or you can call this number. It's 1-800-273-TALK, and TALK is 8255. That is the National Suicide Hotline. They can get you help immediately. So thank you guys so much, Jeremy. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed this talk, and it is a sensitive subject, and I hope this has helped somebody, anyone out there, to know more about what happens in the brain, what happens when you have suicidal thoughts, and ways to prevent that. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the viewers, and we look forward to our next episode.
Yeah. Yeah, they can they can catch that. Bring me forward.
Yes.
They can catch that the other episode, the Monday. Wait, what's today? It's yeah, Monday. It's Monday, right?
Is
Yeah,
it?
so yeah, it would be Monday. Like if we do if we do this podcast here, I mean, we could stick to Sundays or Saturdays. We can stick to Saturdays with your show. I'm great.
Yeah.
I'll be on your show anytime, but I mean Mondays would be nice. Or how would we put that?
Well, we will definitely talk about that, but to the viewers, we will either record it and upload it or
Right.
do it live, and we will put that out on our socials when that is available. We plan on doing this every week,
Like
different
once a
topics.
week.
Yep. And I would love to do it 5 days a week, to tell you the truth, but I know that's a little
Yep.
too much. Yep. So you guys can find us on all platforms, Facebook, for me, YouTube, Twitch.
Healing vocals. Healing vocals.
Healing Vocals Podcast, Twitter. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I'll post it
You
on
got
Instagram.
Spotify? You don't got
I
Spotify
do. I have
yet.
Spotify and Buzzsprout. Yes.
Right. Look, check this out. Go to her Buzzsprout and her Spotify and listen to her podcast so she can get 1,000 listeners a month so she can start monetizing. Like do
Yeah, I'm gonna
that. Doctor, you're gonna love it all the way.
right to
Like
that, y'all, for
yeah,
you.
gotta get them followers.
Yeah. Yep.
So go
Yeah.
there.
I do some live events. I do. In fact, I have the AMAs coming up. We have some concerts coming up with artists where I'll do live stuff. And I'm about to put
You just had an event.
Yes.
You had
Yes, we did.
that one.
Yeah, with Bray Lou, Sleeping in Silence.
Chris
Yes.
yeah. So that was crazy. Who was the sponsors on that one? And bring yourself forward too. You can.
I partnered with
knock
Night
that out.
Owl Entertainment,
Okay.
and that's Mr. Randy Griesenbach. And I partnered with him, and this is where you guys can find my podcast. So,
I got the Buzzsprout right now.
find my
So are you live on Buzzsprout right now as we talk? That's the question. Because I want to see
Not
kind of like
Buzzsprout, but
how
I
we're
am
marketing.
live on every other platform right now.
Okay.
Like they can see us. Absolutely.
Oh, this is Buzzsprout's landing page. I really like
Yes.
the Buzzsprout landing page. Maybe I should just go with the Buzzsprout landing page.
Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. I see there's been some new people joining in. Caden Collins also does podcasting, and we talk to artists. A lot of times we'll partner together, and he is actually the one I'm dropping one of my songs with. He's also an artist. So welcome, Caden. We are wrapping up.
We are.
And thank you guys so much. I'm going to put us side by side so we can both tell you everybody bye. So thank you guys so much for joining us. It has been a true blessing. And we look forward to that next episode. You never know what we're going to talk about
Oh yeah.
through the
Never know.
lens of Mary.
Hey, hey, at least my dog's eating my cooking now.
That's an episode in itself.
It is an
Bye,
episode. Like
everybody.
I think, yeah, I think self-deprecation is a main comedic relief for a lot of people, don't you think?
Maybe
Yeah, let's go.
we'll
You
do a
know,
podcast on that.
we should do like right now. We should just think of just different podcasts.